Your boy Chris. It's your boy Chris. It's another amazing live session of Financipation, and I want to give a shout out to Kilika Solutions, essentially for all the work that you've done with me over the times. I know the last 3 years and everything as I've been going live with this particular podcast, they've been one of my strongest sponsors, so I want to give a shout out to Kilika Solutions. All right. So today, guys, tonight rather, we're going to talk about a lot of different things, everybody. First and foremost, I've been getting a lot of questions about just finance and things like that. And unfortunately, a lot of people are now really worried about their finances because of all the tax, because of all the cuts that are going on essentially with jobs. Doge is essentially whacking a lot of government jobs. Full disclosure, I do a lot of work with the federal government for some of my private contracts. Additionally, as a mechanical engineer, I also do a decent amount of work for just different organizations and things like that. So, 1 second, everybody. Perfect. So as I was saying, sorry about that. As I was saying, everybody, I do a decent amount of work with the federal government because about 50% of the work that I do is with private developers, and the other 50% I would say is with the federal government. So as a result, I run across a decent amount. Apologize, everybody. Let me get this right. All right, better. So as a result, a decent amount of work that I do is with the federal government. And I just recently got an email from one of my colleagues who forwarded me something essentially where he was being told that he needed to justify his position with this particular agency and send a daily report about what he does for a living. Now, this particular guy is highly educated. He's got a master's degree in aerospace engineering. He's got a PhD in mechanical engineering. And he's worked for this particular alphabet soup government organization for over almost 20 years now. And what's interesting is that this guy actually also runs a business on the side. So he essentially told the individual sent them that email that they can where to shove it and they can basically kiss his behind. And I thought it was hilarious reading that. But it did get me thinking, though. This guy is in an interesting place because he has the intelligence and he has the knowledge to basically more or less know for 100% of without a shadow of a doubt, if this guy left the federal government agency that he worked for, he would have a job within seconds to work in the private industry because his game is that tight. The guy, once again, has a master's degree in aerospace engineering and he's a PhD in mechanical engineering. Extremely smart person. And on top of it, he consults on the side because he's a professional engineer. So this particular guy, literally, when he gets messages from Musk or from whoever is sent this email saying, send me your dailies or else, he said he's typed in capital letters or else and is gladly continuing to work for the agency that he works for in the Maryland, D.C. area. So it's really interesting because this guy was laughing about it. But in Florida, some of the federal government agencies that I work with and that I work and that some of the projects that I work on, it's a lot different because the individuals for this particular company that I'm kind of doing some consulting work with, they are terrified. Why? Because they are, I guess, more of the stereotypical, prototypical government work. And what I mean by that is that they have an associate's degree or they never went to college. And as a result, they've only worked for the federal government. But they know for a fact if they actually got fired from their cushy government job, they could be in some serious trouble as far as finding an equal opportunity in the private industry. And it kind of got me thinking, because of that, for all Americans, whether you are working for the federal government or you are working essentially in the private industry, what are your skills? What's your skill set? What do you do for a living? How comfortable are you essentially with where you are at? If your boss did walk into and fire you, how quickly could you get another job? See, this is the way, everybody, that I want you to start thinking, okay? Because in the event that you unfortunately do get let go, and right now I'll just cut right to the chase, let's be real with you, the Department of Government Efficiency, which is ran by Elon Musk or Doge, is going through and systematically firing tens of thousands of people. Tens of thousands of people. Right now, they're hanging upside down American flags in national parks all over America because people are getting fired left and right, and they're furious about it. These individuals who thought their entire life they would just work for the federal government and they would be essentially make about six figures and be set for life. And they woke up to an extremely rude awakening come January 21st when they started getting their termination papers. And this is not the particular time where I'm going to talk about whether they should or they should not be getting fired. And this is also not the podcast, so I'm going to get into the whole political thing. If you want to know my politics, subscribe to my Patreon. What I am saying is this. I don't care, once again, whether you're in the private industry or you're in the federal government. You need to make sure that you are getting whatever certifications you need to get, that you are getting whatever extracurricular knowledge you need to get so that you are as marketable as possible in the event you are forced to leave your particular company. And a good way to do that, everybody, is to never get complacent. Never get to the point where you are comfortable in corporate America. Never get to the point where you are comfortable working for the federal government. Because when that happens, everybody, that's when that's when essentially rest kicks in. And when you get complacent, that's essentially when things start to die. It's interesting because if you actually take a look at nature, things that don't grow and things that don't move, they die. And obviously, we live in a different society. We live in a different portion of nature as human beings at the top of the food chain, so we don't necessarily have to worry about it in that respect. But that is essentially the mindset I think you should probably have if you work in corporate America. Because once again, if you are perfectly comfortable working 40 hours a week, making a paycheck, not taking any risks, not investing any of your money, everybody, you could potentially end up like some of these federal government contractors that I'm working with down here in Florida who are essentially struggling, and or you could be like my boy who's up in the DMV who literally told the person sending that email, you can go screw yourself, because they know for a fact they can get a job in 3 or 4 seconds. They put their resume on the market because their experience and their educational pedigree is that good. And I would want you to be the second person. Why? Because at the end of the day, nothing is cooler than seeing a person that literally knows with a shadow of a doubt that they can get another career in the event bad things happen to them. And that's the point I want you to be in. And people always ask me, okay, Chris, if that's the case, what credentials should I get? What certifications should I get? Obviously, there is no one size fits all. I will say in general, if you get an MBA, that pretty much helps you in pretty much any industry. I have an MBA. But in general, everybody, it's very simple to find out what credentials you need in whatever career that you work in. Just simply look at the president of whatever company you work for, look at the C-suite static executives of the companies that you work for, and or look at the credentials of the person that you directly report to. And if you do that, you instantly have a roadmap to as far as what exactly it is that you should be applying for and what you should be doing in the event you want to get a promotion, or in the event you want to make yourself unfireable, as the word I'll use. Okay. By the way, everybody, please hit that. Sorry. By the way, everybody, my Cash App is $ CHRIS P485. Once again, $ CHRIS P485. And please subscribe to the channel. Please like, comment, share as well. And additionally, on top of everybody, please support your content creators and your influencers. Okay, because I love doing this. And obviously, please support your content creators. Okay. That's the way I want you to think about it, okay, everybody? Because a lot of times on Financipation, I focus on investment accounts, I focus on brokerage accounts, I focus on 401ks, I focus on IRAs, I focus on index funds, I focus on exchange traded funds, and those things are obviously all very important when it comes to building generational wealth and financially emancipating yourself from poverty. But another thing that's extremely important, everybody, is maximizing the 40 or 50 hours a week that you work in corporate America. And by maximizing, I mean figuring out how it is you are going to make more money while you are there. So 90% of Americans work a 9-to-5 job, and there's nothing wrong with that. 90% of Americans, from I think it's like 87%, but somewhere close to 90% of Americans in America today, they work to some extent in corporate America. Some of them do it primarily because they need the healthcare benefits. Some of them like those 401ks and the company trucks and that kind of stuff. And some people just honestly don't have the bandwidth and don't have the desire to work 75 hours, 80 hours a week to work for themselves as an entrepreneur. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has their own lane. I personally like the idea of being an entrepreneur and working in corporate for a couple of different reasons. But in general, everybody, because 90% of Americans roughly cash a W-2 every year for tax season, that means you are going to be in corporate America. And if that's the case, you have to figure out how it is you are going to maximize the time that you were there. And by maximizing it, once again, what are you doing to improve your skills so that your employer is forced to pay you more money? Or even better, your employer essentially can't pay you more money, so you go work for someone else, one of your competitors, and they pay you $25,000 or $30,000 more for doing the exact same job. That's the position I want you guys to be in if you're listening to this podcast right now. Because at the end of the day, that is where you want to be. So, Chris, how do I get these promotions? What do I do to better myself? What do I do to make more money? I'm glad that you asked. First things first, if you're in corporate, you need to pick, before you even get to corporate, I want you to make sure that you are going into a career or you're getting a skill set that's actually employable. What do I mean by that? Right now, and once again, I am a mechanical engineer, and I've worked in the engineering industry for over almost 20 years now. Actually, over 20 years now. It'll be 21 years this June. So what I'm saying is this. First and foremost, you need to make sure you are going into a career that actually has multiple jobs waiting for you when you graduate. And those careers, everybody, are very simple. They are in science, in technology, in engineering, in mathematics, in healthcare, in law, and in finance. If you pick a career or a subsidiary career of that, whether it's being a paralegal, whether it's being a nurse tech, whether it's being a mathematician, a math teacher, whatever. If you pick any field within those science, technology, engineering, math, healthcare, law, or finance, you are always going to have a job. Especially if you pick something in the engineering realm, because there was a CNBC study that was done recently, and every state, 3 of the top 5 positions that were available were engineering related positions. That was all 50 states across America. And the reason is simple: because of everything that's kind of going on with these visas and everything in regards to trying to bring in engineers from other countries. America originally was doing that because every year we produce about 10 to 15,000 less engineers than we need every year. When I graduated in 2007, at that time, every year America was graduating about 12,000 less engineers than they needed every year. And right now in 2025, it's probably more like 15 to 16,000 less engineers than we actually need. So as a result of that, the way that America was making up that gap was they were hiring engineers from China, from India, from Africa, from Europe, and bringing them to the States. Nowadays, because of the current administration, they're cutting back on a lot of these. I think they call them K-1 visas and everything. And as a result, our engineering shortage is getting even higher. Another thing, Americans, particularly our older baby boomer Americans, are getting significantly older. And people do not get healthier as they get older. They get sicker and they get weaker. So as a result, if you go into the medicine field, you go into the healthcare field, you are also always going to have a job. Why? Because the baby boomers are essentially dying off and they're getting sicker and they're getting older and they're getting weaker, and babies are also being born. So if you go into engineering or healthcare, everybody, you are always going to have a job. Third, construction. Now, I understand that not everybody is built to work in 5-degree buildings or negative 30-degree wind chills outside, or work in 105-degree roofs in Miami. I get it. Construction is not for everybody. But I will say this: if you want to have a job, that is literally an industry where you can literally cuss out your boss, fight them, and the next day you have a job the next day. Construction is built like that. And on top of that, you can make extremely good money. Every electrician that I met that had over 10 years of experience, over 5 years of experience, made more money than electrical engineers I knew that had over 10 years of experience. Every electrician I knew that had over 10 years of experience made more money than every electrical engineer that I knew that had over 20 years of engineering experience. Why? Because people are not going into the trades, particularly Americans. So as a result of that, if you go into the construction industry, particularly if you get a skilled labor construction type position, such as become a pipe fitter, a commissioning agent, a startup guy, a plumber, an elevator operator, an electrician, or a carpenter, you are literally always going to be employed. Now, obviously, not everybody wants to go into the construction industry, but I can promise you this. Also, with the current administration, as far as how everybody's getting deported and things like that, if you learn a trade, you are always employed. So the first way to essentially make sure that you are killing it in corporate America, if that's the route you decide to go, is to first and foremost pick a career that actually needs jobs and needs people to do them. And those careers, everybody, are things, once again, like in construction, like in science, like in technology, like in engineering. I'm going to say that 3 times: mathematics, healthcare, law, finance. Why? Because those are the careers that America needs, and that America does not have enough people who are going into those careers. And it's kind of funny because if you actually go into companies like NASA, you'll see people that are like 50, and you'll see people that are like 20. And there's very few in between. It's kind of strange. Why? Because there's a brain drain. What's happening, unfortunately, is going to probably be a brain drain. So because of that gap, they're doing everything they possibly can to hire anything that breathes, that has mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, aerospace engineering, and yes, even like environmental and civil engineering, to work for the federal government and to work for those different private industries, and to work for different government industries. And it's the same thing in the private industry as far as like SpaceX and people like that, and Blue Horizon. So, like I said, first things first, make sure you pick a career, everybody, that's actually employable. That's the first thing. Secondly, this is for my college students, okay? Because a lot of times I find in the finance space, for some strange reason, and I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of guilty of this as well. A lot of us financial influencers, we don't spend nearly enough time talking to the teenagers, the preteens, and yes, even the college students. So to my college students, let me give you a game, okay? So when you were in college, right? Let's say you're in college for 4 years. You have approximately 3 summers. You have the summer between your freshman year, your sophomore year, that's 1 summer. You have the summer between your sophomore year and your junior year, that's 2 summers. You have the summer between your junior year and your senior year, that's 3 summers. So essentially, if you graduate in 4 years, you have exactly 3 summers. And I behoove you, do not, under any circumstances, spend those 3 summers just partying, drinking, and basically playing the field. Yes, there's going to be some element of that. I understand. I get it. I was in college myself. I understand that. What I'm saying is this, everybody. You do not want to waste those 3 summers working at Wendy's, McDonald's, or Walmart. If you are studying engineering, you need to spend those summers getting internships and co-ops at actual engineering firms. If you are studying teaching, in education, you need to spend those summers essentially interning at high schools and preferably at colleges, but at high schools and at elementary schools, getting teaching experience. If you are going into healthcare, you need to spend those 3 summers basically getting internships and co-ops at hospitals, at reputable pharmacies, at pharmaceutical labs, and also at university hospitals. And the reason why is simple. When you graduate in 4 years, you don't want to hand somebody a resume. You want to hand them job experience. And when you have co-ops and internships, that's exactly what you are doing. Now, full disclosure, I'll put my cards on the table. I had an internship or a co-op every summer I was in college. So between my freshman and sophomore year, I got an internship. Between my sophomore year to my junior year, I got an internship. Between my junior year and my senior year, I got an internship. So as a result, when I graduated, actually before I graduated, I had multiple jobs waiting for me. But when I graduated, I wasn't interviewing for companies. I wasn't interviewing for companies. I'm sorry. When I graduated, companies weren't interviewing me. I was interviewing them. How much are you going to pay me because I have 3 summers of work experience? How much are you going to compensate me because I've worked at this company before in the past? How much what's your 401k match? Because the company I worked for last summer matched 10% of the first 5%, actually 100% of the first 5% that I put in. What is your company doing? So I wasn't handing you a resume. I was handing you work experience. So my college students that are listening, make sure you are going to every career fair. Make sure you're talking to all the upperclassmen. Make sure, if it's possible, you are dating upperclassmen because they're going to be the ones that kind of teach you how to navigate the whole world as far as what jobs are going to and jobs not to get. Make sure you are talking to your professors to find out what opportunities they have, whether they can get you an opportunity with Northrop Grumman, whether they can get you a potential opportunity with working for a hospital and things like that. So make sure that when you are interviewing for these, make sure that when you are in college, you are talking to your professors about getting internships and co-ops every summer. And what's actually pretty neat is that a lot of the times, professors, they have, let's just say, a certain percentage of jobs and a certain number of jobs, internships that they can literally hand out like they're passing out money at the club and everything. But they're only going to give them to the students that they see that are actually hungry, who are going to do something when they actually work. I'll give you an example. When I was 18 years old, I applied for an internship at the University of Illinois. At the time, the only people who could apply for the internship had to be 21 and up. But because I applied to the internship, they said, you know what, Chris? We never let people that are under 21 for a variety of reasons into this program, because it was a program that was designed more so for kids that were going into grad school. But because you actually want to apply, we're going to take you. So that summer, essentially, I spent the entire summer at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign doing undergraduate student technical research for the Army Corps of Engineers. I ended up actually writing a published 80-page book on, I think it was deconstruction and material reuse for federal buildings. Now, the only reason why I got that was because my professor saw that I was hungry and that I wanted to, and that I was willing to learn. So that summer, I ended up making about $7,000 essentially for 3 months of work. And this is back in 2004. So with the inflation and everything, you probably factor in, this is probably about $11,000 in modern day times in 2025. So imagine that. I could have worked at Wendy's. I could have worked at McDonald's. I could have worked at Toys R Us or wherever. I could have just chilled and worked at the mall and had a lot of fun and partied up and stuff like that, or and made $1,000. But because I got an internship, everybody, I made over $7,000 in a 3 month span, and this is as an 18-year-old. And full disclosure, one second. Sorry, guys, having mic trouble. All right. Sounds good. Sorry, guys. I love technology, but it works until it doesn't want to. But as I was saying, though, everybody, I could have basically just partied it up, worked close to my parents' house, got some little BS job in college and everything, worked at the YMCA, worked at McDonald's or Wendy's, made about $2,000 or $3,000 that summer. But because I got a internship, I made about $7,000 that summer. And best part about it, when it was time for me to graduate, once again, I could say, yes, I worked for the Army Corps of Engineers. I did an undergraduate student technical research project for material reuse and deconstruction. It's an 80-page paper. It's published and everything. You can read it. And as a result, that looks extremely good on your resume. And secondly, the next summer, I ended up getting a job working for an engineering firm that basically did soils and concrete. And every summer, people, I had an internship. So as I stated, when I graduated, actually before when I actually was going into my senior year, I had a full-time job waiting for me in undergrad. I mean, out of undergrad, and that's the position that you want to be in. So first and foremost, you want to make sure you are going into a career, as I stated earlier, that actually is employable. As you're going into that career that is employable, make sure for my college students that you are essentially getting summer internships and co-ops every summer. And for my blue collar people, don't worry. I'm gonna come back to you. I'm gonna come back to you guys later in this live session. Okay. So first things first, as I stated earlier, pick a career that's actually employable. Secondly, internships and co-ops. Having a college degree in the 21st century is not enough. It's essentially like your parents having a high school diploma back in the day. So once again, just because you got a college degree, even if it's in science, technology, engineering, or math today, is not enough. Why? Because you got a billion people in Africa, Europe, India, and China competing for your American job. And if you don't believe me, once again, look what's going on right now with all these visa issues that are going on, where other countries are sending their best and their brightest, potentially, or at least they used to, potentially into America to take our best jobs. So once again, just getting a degree is not good enough anymore. You have to have internships and co-ops. Next, the next thing I want to talk about is, okay, what happens now? You graduated from college. Just like hypothetically, you may or you may not have gotten internships and co-ops throughout college. The next step is you have to actually start applying for positions and jobs. So let's say you do get a job out of college. They're only going to pay you $45,000 a year. Nothing wrong with that, but you know for a fact, because of the people that you dated in the past, or friends that you have, or possibly people in your fraternity, or just people that you kind of know around the way, that you, with your skill set, you should be commanding $65,000 to $70,000 for your first job out of college, and not getting a measly, and not getting 45 or 50,000. So, what do? Now, people, is the fun part. You got to start interviewing. So interviews are kind of like going on dates and talking to different people. The more you do it, the better you get. And what I mean by that is this. Eventually you get to a point where with the interviews, you have to get comfortable talking about yourself and talking about how you're going to bring value to whatever company that you work for. And there's nothing wrong with it. This is a good skill to have. This is a good place to be in. Why? Because when you get into that position, you are well aware of the fact that what your skills are and what your weaknesses are. And whatever your weaknesses are, that's just an area of improvement. And the only way you do that is going by real-time interviews. When I was interviewing for colleges, when I was interviewing for jobs, I would essentially go on as many interviews as possible. It got to the point where literally if I wanted to visit a city, I would basically look up engineering firms in that city, reach out to them, and they would fly me out to spend a weekend, or fly me out to spend a day, interview them, and then fly me back to Carolina, which is where I went to undergrad at. And I did the same thing essentially in grad school. So essentially, go on as many interviews as possible for quality, reputable companies that you want to work for. And the best part about it is that what you want to have happen is this. You want to get to the point where you get, let's say, 3 job offers, right? And you get to the point where you say, well, I would like to work for company A because your company is really good, but I just got a job offer to work for company B, and they offer me $5,000 more than you offer me. So are you comfortable matching that or no? Yes or no? And the good thing about it is that if companies see that you do have job offers, 9 times out of 10, they will either match it or they're going to figure out a way to basically compensate you, whether it's by a signing bonus or whether it's by essentially giving you employee sharing options, and or is matching a larger percentage of your 401k. I've seen it happen in my life. So make sure that you are interviewing for as many jobs as possible, especially to my college students, if you actually get the job before you graduate, and especially if you already have a job offer. Now, once you accept the job, my personal advice is don't renege, don't go back on it, because that hurts the next line of kids who are coming behind you. So if a company does offer you a job, give them like a 2-week window. Say, okay, cool. Let me review the opportunity. Let me review the options and get back to you. Make sure you give them a specific deadline and don't make it too long. Don't say, give me a month. No. make it like a week or two, and then I'll get back with you and give them a hard deadline. And once that hard deadline comes, if nothing else better comes up, take the job. Another thing I want to tell you as well: don't take a job just because of the money. I know it's challenging, and I know, particularly if you come from the hood, or you come from, or you're poor and stuff like that, you want to take the job that's going to offer you the most money. Don't go for the company that's going to pay you the most money. Go to the company that's going to essentially compensate you the most. Okay. 1 second. Once again, everybody, my cash app is $Chris P485. Once again, $Chris P485. So yep, $Chris P485. This would have been helpful when I was in college. Don't worry, action clips. I'm kind of getting to that too. So, and by the way, everybody, keep asking questions. Keep asking questions. So now, let's say you've gotten the job offer. Let's say you're working in corporate America. You've been there for about 2 or 3 years, stuff like that, and it's what you think it is going to be, but you're starting to see some things you don't like. Let's just say, I don't know. Let's say your money isn't right. Let's say you're not getting the kind of compensation that you think you should get. Let's say your boss is playing favorites. You're not really, and as a result, you don't like that. You don't worry. I'm about to answer your question. Don't worry. This would have been helpful when I was in college. So let's say you are no longer in college, you're working in corporate, you've been there for about 2 or 3 years, and you're just not getting the kind of compensation that you want, you're not getting the kind of mentoring that you want. You have a good skill set, and you think it's time to go. Now we're going to talk about how in the world do you go about essentially getting applying for other companies, and how you actually go about talking about getting a sign-on bonus. So that's the next thing we're going to talk about. So with the sign-on bonuses, I'll just say it to you like this. First and foremost, if you are working for a company and they're not giving you the kind of compensation that you deserve, and or you're not getting mentored or trained the way you think you should be getting trained, I got good news for you, everybody. The good thing about our country is that in America, you can always learn more, and you can always learn more, and you can always start making more money. And in regards to how to negotiate a sign-on bonus, what I would like you to do is quite simple. Interview for different companies. And as you're interviewing for different companies, the first thing you should do is when you walk through that door, I know this is going to sound very rudimentary, is be about 15 minutes early. Now, I know it sounds a little old school, but this is the reason why I say that. Let's say you're going on an interview at 9 o'clock, right? If you should get there at 8:40, 20 minutes early. That way it gives yourself some time just to relax and to chill. You got 5 minutes to just rest and just kind of get your mind right and kind of get ready for this particular interview. And then at 8:15 on the dot, you want to be physically walking into the building. My advice is this: if there is a female secretary at the front, and there typically is a female secretary at the front, smile at her, make a nice joke, compliment her on her hair, her eyes, or something. Compliment something that she's wearing, compliment the office. Be very friendly and very cordial. Don't overdo it, but be very friendly and very cordial to the secretary. And the reason is quite simple. Studies show that people that make the secretaries feel warm and happy and nice, they generally have a vastly better job of getting job offers than the individuals that just kind of walk in, brush off the secretary, and then want to go straight to the person interviewing them. Why? Because that secretary, generally speaking, or the receptionist, generally speaking, has a very good relationship with the people who are actually going to be hiring you. So in every interview I ever went on, I always went out of my way to make sure the receptionist felt very comfortable when I was there. That's the first thing. Secondly, please, please, please do your research on the companies that you are actually interviewing with, okay? I'm blown away at how many people will tell me they're going on interviews and stuff like that, and they have absolutely no idea, literally none, about what the company does. They don't know when the company started. They don't know who founded the company. They don't know what year it was founded. They know nothing about the company. And as a result of that, as they're interviewing with the company, it's not necessarily what you want to add to the company. It's what you're trying to take from it. So do your research on the companies that you are essentially working on. Be as prepared as humanly possible. Know when the company was founded. Know who the CFO is. Know who the C-suite static executives are. Do research on what colleges they went to. Do research on anything that you can find on LinkedIn. Google these individuals. Why? Because at the end of the day, these people are going to spend more time with you than they're going to spend with their families. And as a result of that, you need to make sure you are a likable, charismatic, fun person to be around, okay? Simple as that. Next. The next way essentially to negotiate a sign-on bonus, and once again, we've moved past the college phase. You've already got the degree. You have a couple years of experience in the game, and now you're interviewing with another company. The next way to negotiate a sign-on bonus, everybody, is to make sure that you handle yourself competently and professionally during the interview. Look between the person's eyes. Make sure you have your hands like this. Make sure you're asking them direct but very friendly but also very focused questions. What computer programs are you using? What computer programs does your company use? What's the percentage of travel? What are some of the qualities that you look for in the people who are very successful in your company? What credentials do I need to get in order to move to the next level in this company? What's the percentage of times you expect your people to travel? Every industry is different, everybody. But in general, make sure you handle yourself competently and have questions that have questions that you've already written mentally in your head before you get there. Also, the people that are interviewing you, if it's possible and you know their names, we live in the digital age. You can literally Google what union hall they went to, what college they went to, whether they're married. You can Google all this kind of stuff. So my personal advice is make sure you are doing as much as possible to be as prepared as possible and you know who you're interviewing with. Something that I always do as well was from a mentor standpoint. Do you guys have a very large mentoring system in place, and or will I be mentoring a junior engineer? Because depending on the position that you're interviewing with, that could be a possibility. And if you are tasked to mentor a junior person or a junior individual, ask the company, do they have templates set up in place to do that? Because not every company does. And if they don't, then guess what? That's a good thing, because it opens up a door for you to train essentially your help. Next, another way to essentially negotiate a sign-on bonus is to make sure that you examine the entire package in the event that they're going to offer to you. So what do I mean by that? I've gotten sign-on bonuses before that said, we will pay you $15,000 if you sign on this dotted line, but you have to stay at the company for 5 years. And I immediately told them no. Why? Because I understand the way interest works, and generally speaking, most companies only give you a 4% pay raise every year that you work for them. In English, that means you're getting exactly a 1% pay raise every year, because inflation is 3%. So if I stick with you for 5 years, that means essentially I've gotten a 5% pay raise in 5 years. For comparison's sake, people that leave companies after 3 years, on average, get a 10 to 15% pay raise. So that means in 6 years, I will get a 30% pay raise if I jump ship once. Whereas if I stick with your company, I'm only going to get a 5% pay raise. So I immediately told that company, no, I'm not interested in signing an NDA and then having a $15,000 $15,000 sign-on bonus if I have to stay here for 5 years. I've had other companies tell me, we'll give you a $10,000 sign-on bonus, but in the event you get fired or terminated prior to 2 years, or you leave prior to 2 years, we're going to get that money back. So these are all the kind of things that you can examine as well. Another thing too, in the event that you do get a sign-on bonus, make sure it's actually $10,000 that you're getting, because you don't want to be in a situation where you sign on that dotted line thinking you're going to get a $10,000 sign-on bonus, but you live in a state like California and the taxes were not taken into account for that. So as a result, that $10,000 you thought you were going to get, it looks really more like $5,500 after the federal government and the state taxes get it. I've seen that happen to people as well. So make sure that for the sign-on bonuses, you are actually getting what you think you deserve, okay? And you're actually getting what you are actually signing on for. So another thing to do is this. Once you get that sign-on bonus, make sure you negotiate it correctly before you offer your services or start working for that company. And what do I mean by that? It kind of gets back to the point that I was making earlier. At this point, you're about to work for this company. Make sure that whatever it is, the stipulations are there. You are full aware of it. So as a result, if you sign a sign-on bonus and it says somewhere in the dotted lines that you have to travel 60% of the time, but you're married with 2 kids and they're both young, and you're not aware of that, you may have signed that sign-on bonus with the idea that you're benefiting your family. But in the event you are unaware for some strangers that you don't have to that there's a travel component in order to receive that, you may have just shot yourself in the foot. So make sure that you know exactly what you are doing when you sign on these dotted lines. Next, the next thing I want you to do when you're negotiating a sign-on bonus is to watch out for exactly what it is you are signing. And what I mean by that, once again, is this: read the fine print. Make sure there's not a situation where you are signing on to something with a company that you find to be morally unethical, or when you actually get there, you find the company culture sucks and you don't want to be there anymore. And I've seen this happen to some of my friends where they get ticked off of the company they work for, so they go work for a competitor across town or across the state. And when they get there, even though they're making $25,000 or $30,000 more, they absolutely hate the work-life balance. They absolutely hate the people they work with, and they're just miserable and sad to be around. And you do not want to be in that situation, okay? Also, I want you to also make sure that you are aware of the levels that you're signing up for. So what I mean by that, I'm in senior management at my point in my career. I'm basically one step under the C-suite static executives in my career. So most C-suite static executives for a sign-on bonus, they get anywhere from 100,000 to $25 million sign-on bonuses. Upper and middle class management supervisors and superintendents, they on average get between $5,000 to $25,000 sign-on bonuses. Senior sales associates and supervisors, such as lower level management, they get between $5,000 and $10,000 sign-on bonuses. And mid-level professionals and IT technicians, they get between $1,000 to $7,000 sign-on bonuses. So depending on where you are in that scale of your career, and obviously there's years of work that are associated with this. Depending on where you are, that determines essentially what you are getting when it comes to that. Once again, everybody, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps the algorithm, and most importantly, for my live session, $CHRISP485. Please go ahead and support your content creators. Okay, support us because we thoroughly enjoy what we're doing, and helps the family fund, which is our family. So we appreciate that. We appreciate that. And I talked about this next. So at this point, you've already matriculated through college. You got your degree. You did the internships and everything. You got the co-ops. So you worked full-time in corporate for a few years for one particular company, and you started to kind of feel some kind of tension, some kind of way. So now you know it's time to go to another company, and you're negotiating a sign-on bonus. And when you get that sign-on bonus, you're ecstatic. So you get that $15,000 sign-on bonus and say, okay, starting you get there 2 weeks, you start in 2 weeks, and you're good to go. The next thing I want us to focus on and talk about is how do you actually get promoted and continue to rise in your career. And this gets back to what I was saying earlier, people. You need to make sure that you are constantly reinventing yourself. You should be constantly getting new certifications. You should be constantly doing research to say, okay, where is my industry going? What's happening? How's globalization going to affect me? How is AI going to affect me? What credentials should I get? Should I go back to college and get another degree? Should I get another certification? What should I do essentially to take my career to the next place? And I always tell people, just like I said earlier, if you're interested in figuring out what credentials and what college degrees you should get or what potential, I have a commercial cleaning business that I'm growing. I want to be able to quit my 40-hour-a-week job. Perfect. My advice is, let's see, what is your name again? What was your name? Pull it up. Action clips. Perfect. Cool. So it's simple. This is what you should do. You should be a 6 to 10 entrepreneur. And what I mean by that, you have your 9 to 5 job that you work right now. You didn't actually say what you do for a living. So you have your 9 to 5 job that you do right now. My personal advice is when you get off work, you should spend about 2 to 3 hours every day working on, you said you want to do a commercial cleaning business. You should spend about 2 or 3 hours every day, 5 days a week, roughly 10 to 15 hours a week, working on your side business. Now, I personally say you should do, it's quite simple. Wake up 1 hour early every morning, work out, do your thing, and then spend about 20 to 30 minutes after that working on your business. So let's say you have to get up, let's say you have to be at work at 7 a.m. You get up every day at 6 a.m. Start getting up at 4:30 in the morning. Work out really quickly, and then spend an hour before you go to work working on your business. And then during your lunch break for your corporate America job, spend another hour working on your business. And then when you get off work at 5 or 6 o'clock, spend another hour afterwards. That means at the end of the day, not only did you work in your corporate America career, you spent 3 hours working on your side business. And your side business can be things like setting up your website. It can be things like sending out emails to get potential new clients for your commercial cleaning business. It can be studying so you get the type of certifications to basically buy so that you can apply for different type of government grants and government loans for your business. It can be applying for different government loans so you can start doing your commercial cleaning on Saturdays and Sundays throughout the week. So spend about 2 to 3 hours every day, 5 days a week, working on your business. And I promise you, if you do this for about a good 5 to 10 years, not only will you start making so much money that you can walk out of corporate, you'll probably get to the point one day where your corporate America company will say, look, we know you have a business on the side and you're making a lot more money for that than you do here. We're going to go ahead and let you go, but we're going to do this because by doing this, it's going to allow your company to go to the next level. I've seen it happen to people where they're making $50,000 working in corporate because they want the benefits, and then they're running a business on the side and they make $100,000 doing their side hustle. And then their company finds out about it and they say, you've been a good employee, but we're going to let you go because you have a business on the side. And that person who's making $100,000 a year does not really care they lost $50,000 a year. And more often than not, then they get to a point where because they're no longer working in corporate, they're making now they have more time to spend in their business, and they're making $200,000 a year and $300,000 a year. Everybody that's working in corporate America, everybody, you should have a business on the side. So when you ask me, you want to walk away from corporate America, that is perfect. My advice is simple. Make sure you are working on your business on the side. Make sure as you are doing this, you are spending some time every day working on your side business. And if you do that, I promise you, not only will you not have to worry about ever uh, having cash flow issues, you're going to also find that working in corporate makes you, having your own business on the side makes you a better employee working in corporate America. Give me 1 second, everybody. Having some, like I say, technology works until it doesn't. So that's my advice to you. If you want to walk out of corporate and stop doing your 40 hours a week there, spend about 2 to 3 hours every day working on your side business. Another thing too, a lot of things I find that happens to a lot of, particularly unfortunately my minority entrepreneurs. When you say you are working a business on the side, the only businesses that I know of, they have LLCs, they're S corps, and they all have EIN numbers, employment identification numbers. You do not want to be in a situation, people, where you are spending 10 or 15 years working on your side business and you never actually incorporate it, and then some scummy person sees your business, sees what they're doing, and they basically go to LegalZoom.com or go to the state or go to a comptroller, create an LLC, name it exactly what your business is named, and then they send you a cease and desist letter, and they take your clientele. I've seen it happen over and over again, particularly to my Black and my Hispanic listeners. So to all my listeners that are listening, yes, start that business, but make sure your business is a legit business, a legit EIN number, with a legit EIN number, with a legit LLC, because you want to make sure that you are legally protected from people stealing your ideas. So work the corporate America job, work your side hustle, eventually work that side hustle to the point where it makes you more money than your corporate America job, and then that gives you options. Another thing too I want you to focus on is this. When you actually start that business, make sure you are putting all your profits and all your revenues into something called the self-employed IRA. I love the SEP IRA. At the time of this recording, you can basically put $70,000, $69,000 into your SEP IRA. It has all the benefits of a traditional or a Roth IRA, depending if you get the Roth SEP IRA or the traditional SEP IRA. And it's essentially acts the exact same way as a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA with your investments. So you can invest into index funds, you can invest into ETFs, you can invest into REITs, you can invest into the stock market, you can invest into gold, you can invest into crypto. So make sure, when you start your business on the side, that you're putting a large percentage of your profits back into the business, and or a large percentage of your profits back into your investment accounts. And while you're putting your money from your business into your SEP IRAs, you should be putting the money from your corporate American salary into your Roth IRAs and your traditional IRAs. And if you're investing into your Roth IRA and your traditional IRA, and you're investing into your SEP IRA, that puts you in the top 1% of Americans. So I'm giving you guys game, everybody. So to my listeners that just asked that question about what they should be doing from an investment standpoint, and I wanted to leave corporate, do it. That's my advice to you. Start that business. I call it your 6 to 10 career. So work your 9 to 5 and then work your 6 to 10. Okay, that's my advice to that. So we've talked about the people who, the first thing in this economy, make sure you pick a career that's employable. I start with the college students. I'm gonna transfer back to my union, my blue collar guys in a little bit. So first and foremost, you pick a college career that you know is employable. When you pick that career that you know is employable, every summer get an internship, and every summer get a co-op that you possibly can. You do not want to graduate in 4 years with an expensive college degree and have no internships and no co-ops. That's essentially like trying to get a job and having no experience. It's very challenging. So once you get that internship and that co-op, and you basically get those corporate America, and you actually get your first corporate America job, at some point you're probably going to want to leave that company. And when you leave that company, make sure that when you go to your competitor that you are trying to negotiate a sign-on bonus. And as I said earlier, one of the easiest ways to get sign-on bonuses is this. One, get to the interview on time and early. It's as simple as that. I'm blown away that people in their 20s and 30s still can't get to a job interview on time. 2, make the receptionist feel very happy. 3, do your research on the people that are interviewing you. 99% of the companies I've ever interviewed with in my life, I knew exactly who I was interviewing with days before the interview. So I could Google them. I could Google where they grew up. I could Google what companies they work for. I could Google what the academic background was if they actually had one. I could Google whether they were white collar, blue collar. I could Google where they live. So that way, when I actually sat across the table from them, I was not talking to a complete stranger. I was talking to a person that I knew very well, whether they knew it or not. So do your research on the people that are interviewing you, and also know what you exactly are interviewing for. And on top of that, know what positions you're interviewing for. Know what what salary range you should be looking for. Know what technology they use, and then when you request that sign on bonus, make sure you have a good idea about what ranges you can request based off of where you are in your career. Okay, and the next thing I want to talk about in regards to the corporate America thing. Once you're in corporate for a certain amount of time, just like this individual asked me earlier, you should start a business. Period. And I'm going to harp on that because at the end of the day, a guy once said it best to me. If you're only getting your money from a single source of income, you are essentially a disaster waiting to happen. And to some extent, I do agree with that because I think having residual streams of income is the best way to multiple streams of residual income is the best way to essentially be financially free and be financially emancipated in the society that we live in. So make sure you are have multiple streams of income, and by multiple streams of income, this can be your Roth IRA, this can be your 401k, this can be your HSA, this can be your SEP IRA, this can be your brokerage accounts. Make sure you have multiple streams of income because all those are different streams of income that are being paid and compounding daily. Particularly if you invest in index funds into index funds and into ETFs on a constant basis. Secondly, start that business. Whatever you're passionate about, start a business with it. And whatever you're passionate about and whatever you can actually use to help people, start that business. And by starting that business, that's another stream of income. On top of that, it's a tax write-off because if you are a business owner, you get paid first and then you get to spend your money. But if you work in corporate America, you pay your taxes first and then you get to spend your money. So start that business. And if you were doing these things, everybody, you don't have to worry about whether it's Trump's economy or Biden's economy or whoever's economy. If you were doing these things, it puts you in the best position for your economy. So, as I stated, start these businesses and try to dominate corporate America. So now let's spend a little bit of time talking about blue collar people, okay? So the good thing about blue collar, from what I know, is, and I've spent time in construction, I spent time in the blue collar world, so I'm very familiar with it. The good thing about the blue collar world is that you are going into an industry where there is very little competition from an American standpoint. And what do I mean by that? Unfortunately, in our society today, we look down on the electrician, but we look up to the electrical engineer. We look down on the mechanical steam fitter, but we look up to the mechanical engineer. Now, I'm an engineer, so I believe me, no shade is given. I know the hell we went through. I know how hard it was for us to get those degrees. I know the pain we went through to get that degree. So I'm not trying to belittle my engineers by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm also going to be real with you. Nobody in America right now is pushing their kids really to go into the trades, particularly the skilled trades. And it's kind of changing a little bit now. But when you learn a trade, everybody, you are literally employed for the rest of your life. It is impossible for you not to find a job. Yes, you may have to travel. Yes, you may have to spend some time away from your family. But if you are comfortable with essentially working outside in the elements, you are always going to have a job. And on top of that, people that learn trades make an insane amount of money. I've met guys that went to prison, became elevator operators when they learned how to be an elevator operator when they were in prison, came out and they were making $300,000 a year less than a year after they came out of prison. I know people that will essentially spend the summer months in Boston, make about $150,000 to $200,000 in Boston, and then when it gets cold in Massachusetts, they travel down to Miami. And when they get down here and everything, they make another $150,000, and they work in Miami during the winter time here, and then they go back to Boston. So they spend the summers in Boston where it's beautiful, and they spend the winters in South Florida where it's 70 degrees, and they make about $150,000 to $200,000 every 6 months in both places. People, when you learn a trade, you don't have to worry about student loans. When you learn a trade, you don't have to worry essentially about your union benefits. If you join a union, the union takes care of you to some extent as far as your retirement packages are concerned. So I am not the kind of guy that craps on blue collar workers. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of interesting because the joke kind of is if you walk into a bar and the person's wearing a suit and they say I'm a lawyer, and another guy's wearing a suit and says I'm an engineer, another guy's wearing a suit and says I'm a doctor, another guy's wearing a Carhartt and a Dickies and says I'm a construction worker. The guy that says he's a construction worker and who drives that truck, he has more money than all of them, and it's the truth. People, when you learn a trade, you are literally employed for life. And on top of that, you have a skill set that you can pretty much teach and pass on to your kids and to your grandkids. And another good thing too that I like about my trades and my blue collar dudes is this: when you learn a trade, starting that business, particularly if you become a master electrician, a master steam fitter, a master carpenter, or a master elevator operator, it's very easy for you to take that skill set and start a business. It's very easy for you to essentially create that LLC and basically put all your power tools in that business under your business name, and you're essentially buying all your tools. Every time you go to a job site, you're buying essentially tools so you can keep your business running. The American version of capitalism rewards business owners, and the American version of capitalism rewards people that start businesses. And as a result of that, blue collar workers that work as licensed mechanics, licensed steam fitters, licensed electricians, they are literally halfway there because they have a skill set that very few Americans know how to do, and they also know how to work with their hands. So once they learn the accounting side of everything, they're set for life. I went the white collar route. Yes, I did have some internships where I broke concrete and I worked on roofs, and I have had careers in my life where I worked outside in the elements. I've worked in my buildings where it's 5 degrees in the summertime, it's 130 in the winter, and it's 135 degrees in the summer. I've spent my time there. But I'll say this as well: the good thing about blue collar workers is that once again, when you get that skill set, you're literally already halfway there in regards to setting up and starting your business. So when it comes down to it, everybody, do not crap on your blue collar workers. So when I said earlier, science, technology, engineering, math, healthcare, law, or finance, if you become a skilled laborer and you learn skilled labor as far as in the construction industry, you're right there with them. Every year they put out CNBC puts out unemployment numbers and things like that, depending on the industry that you're in. And historically speaking, engineers, medical professionals, lawyers, finance people, and construction workers almost always have the lowest unemployment rates. And it makes sense because at the end of the day, if you are an HVAC technician, all you got to do is basically just drive around people's houses during the summertime and say, "Excuse me, ma'am, is your air conditioning broke?" And you'll always have a job. If you're a licensed electrician, people's dimmer switches, they always need dimmer switches installed. They always need receptacles installed. They always need their lighting systems fixed. They always want to basically change out the electrical components for their car. So you're always employed. You make an extremely large amount of money, and you don't get student loans. So the blue collar world is something that I really do kind of wish that America kind of push more, particularly to the minority communities, because it is an avenue to build generational wealth that for some reason in our college educated society that America is becoming, people a lot of times just kind of crap on and forget about. So let's say you're in high school, right? And let's say college is not necessarily for you. Let's say you don't really want to join the Marines, you don't really want to be a cop, but you've always liked the idea of being an electrician. So it's quite simple. If you are in a high school that has any kind of trades kind of background there, that simply walk into this shop and figure out what exactly it is. I'm about 25 minutes behind the live, but my day job is 3 to 11 p.m. I need to stop procrastinating. The biz is just short of 6 figures. Revenue. Yeah, if I wasn't doing my job, I could grow the biz way better. Don't think about it like that. Action clips, honestly, don't think about it like that. At the end of the day, for instance, I use myself as an example. I've always worked 60 hours a week, and I always figured out a way to still meld time to start on my businesses. Financipation was one of them. When I was doing personal training, I would spend about an hour every day reaching out to different clients about who I could train. Well, when I was doing as I'm doing my financial one-on-ones, I spend time as well figuring out, say, who exactly, how can I reach out to people? That was how I worked my way out of corporate America. So just because you work from 3 to 11, the good part about it is, bro, that's only 8 hours. That means you have 16 more hours in your day. So my advice, fam, is that you have to, once again, just time management. Make sure that as you are figuring out ways to get your money up and everything like that, make sure that you are always figuring out ways to spend time to essentially work on your business. That is my advice to you. So don't think about it as if I had more time, I could be more successful. Just figure out how to be successful in the time that you have. And being an entrepreneur is not a sprint. The guys that come out of the gates blasting and they're burning candles on both ends and they're putting out content every 3 hours and they're basically ascending very quickly. Those are usually the ones that's crazy about stealing someone's LLC because they have no. Dude, I can't tell you how many times that's happened. I've actually had people with cease and desist for my business. I can't tell you how many people I've known who've had businesses. Actually, I met a brother in Miami. He had a cleaning business actually, and the guy I was like, cool. I know federal contractors; they can basically get you on because the guy was a minority, and because this individual never got his EIN number, he basically could not get on any of the $1 to $2 million projects I was trying to throw his way. And I was like, dude, get your EIN number, create a legitimate business, and that way I can put you in to get a bid. Because by law, there's a certain percentage of contracts that have to go to certain types of companies, whether they're immigrants, whether they're disabled veterans, whether they're women-owned businesses, or whether they're minority-owned businesses. Because this guy never took the time to spend $750 to get his business up, to get his business license up, because this guy never took the time to actually get his EIN, he could not qualify for those loans. But what happened was really sad was that one day driving by his truck, somebody basically saw the name of his company, started a LLC, and then hit him with the cease and desist letter. And this guy had been doing this business for about 10 to 15 years, and he had to completely rebrand his entire business because someone else basically took his idea, hired some people to do the same kind of work he was doing, and the guy literally lost a tremendous stream of income for himself. So yes, go to LegalZoom.com. That's the one I've always used anyway for my businesses and start a business. Okay, it's very easy. It's very quick. It's very efficient. It's easier to start a business than it is to apply for a job, and do that. Okay, because you do not want to be in a situation where you essentially lose your business essentially because you don't have a LLC. And to get back to what you were saying earlier, by all means, yes, make sure that you spend time to work on your side hustle. Once again, everybody, please support the channel. Hit the super chat button, and on top of that, also my cash app is $ Chris P485 $Chris P485. And no matter what time you have for your business, make time for the business that you own. Okay, make time for your own, because at the end of the day, corporate America, and I'm not a big trash corporate America kind of guy. I think more people would do better if they actually did go the corporate America route, because there are a lot of things you should pick up in corporate America that go beyond just making money. But I'll say this: while you work in corporate, you are legitimately building someone else's career. And while you're building someone else's career and building someone else's paycheck, make sure you always keep your own self in mind. And having a business is the best way to do that. It's almost like having a baby that you're taking care of. I look at Financipation as a baby. This is something that I'm going to give my kids. It's going to put my kids through college. It's going to put my kids, essentially give them some opportunities in life that I did not get. And that's how I look at having a business. But as I'm working in corporate America, that's just money that's essentially allowing me to be my number one financer for some of the businesses that I've had in the past. So make sure that you always have a business that you're building on your own, because that's essentially where your generational wealth is going to lie. Hennessy, Sikorsky, all these companies, Boeing, Ford, Chrysler, GM, Dodge, uh, all these companies essentially were started over a century ago, and the great grandkids of Budweiser, the great grandkids of Ford, the great grandkids of Sikorsky, they're eating off of their grandpappy's name because he started a business. That's the way you have to look at businesses, everybody. It's like planting a tree and just watching it grow that you can give your kids. Okay. To my blue collar people as well, something else I'll say: if you're not married and you don't got kids yet, and you don't have a steady girlfriend, it's not really a bad idea to travel either. So what I mean by that is this: let's say you work in Kansas City, right? And you can make $100,000 a year working in Kansas City, but you're not married, you ain't got a girl, you don't got a serious girlfriend, you don't have kids yet, and they're offering you an extremely lucrative $50,000 opportunity to spend 3 months working in Montana, or spend 3 months working in Los Angeles, or spend 3 months working in Austin, Texas, or something like that. It may not be a bad idea if you're a blue collar dude to just get up and kind of travel, go see the rest of the country. I did that. I worked in the South Hill Virginias, I worked in the Middle Tennessees, I worked in the Nowhere Ohio's, and I can tell you this: it was a good experience, and that I learned a lot. And I also worked in the major cities: the Los Angeles, the DCs, the Chicago's, the New Yorks, the Phillies, the Miamis, obviously, the Orlando's, obviously. And there's nothing wrong with traveling. So to my blue collar people, if you're a single guy, single gal, you're not married, no kids yet, don't be afraid to take an opportunity in a different state. And don't be afraid to take traveling opportunities and do it for a couple years, because not only do you get paid very well, in my case, I learned so much traveling as a traveling mechanical engineer that when I actually stopped traveling, it put me instantly into senior management. And more importantly, it taught me how to deal with very different types of people. Because when you're the only quote unquote black guy in some of the places that I've worked, it teaches you how to get along with people that don't look like you. When you're the only female in places that you potentially have to reside and work in, it helps you get along working around a bunch of men. So don't be scared of those opportunities. And I found with blue collar people, because of the kind of nature of the work that they do, that's a skill they have to pick up very quickly. All right, guys. So keep the questions coming. Keep the questions coming. Super chat. So yep. Keep the questions coming. Keep the questions coming because we're getting a little late with time now. So in this particular live session, I just want to talk about different ways to thrive in this economy, and we talked about essentially make sure you're going into a career field that actually is employable. I said science, technology, engineering, math, healthcare, law, finance, and construction. Make sure if you're going the white collar route, make sure that you are getting your internships, your co-ops every summer. If you're going the blue collar route, the union halls, the union. If you're going the blue collar route, when you're in high school, start applying for different unions to see who's hiring. If the elevator operators are hiring, our fire alarm operators hiring, our low voltage electricians hiring, our high voltage wire guys hiring, our steam fitters and mechanical piping shops, are they hiring? Basically, figure out what union halls are hiring in your area and learn a trade if you want to go the blue collar route. Additionally, once you get into corporate America, if you're the white collar type, after about 2 or 3 years, kind of start looking to see what else is out there. And the reason why I say 2 to 3 years is because at that point, you've got your experience, you know what you're doing, you should have been mentored properly to the point where you know enough to kind of see what you're really worth. And the best part about it, typically speaking, people that stay at the same company only get about a 4% pay raise every year. Inflation is 3%. That means you get a 1% pay raise every year. People that jump ship, they get a 10 to 15% pay raise. So if you work for a company for 3 years and interview for somebody else and get a 15% pay raise, that is significantly better than sticking around for a company and only getting a 3% pay raise every 3 years. So that's the white collar route. If you're in the blue collar route, make sure that as you are getting your experience as a blue collar person, don't be scared to take that opportunity halfway across the country where you don't know anybody. If it's going to pay you $50,000, and you can kind of come back to where you actually grow up, particularly where you actually live. Particularly if you're not married or have kids yet, because at that point you're literally a single guy or a single gal. And seeing the rest of America is pretty cool, actually. This is despite all the kind of crap that's going on, America is a very cool country, and it's kind of cool to kind of get out of your comfort zone and go somewhere else. That's how you actually grow. I can say working in places like South Hill, Virginia, and working in the middle of nowhere, Florida, and places like that, it kind of puts you in a position where you kind of had to learn different cultures and how to get along people that flat out have nothing to do that are nothing like you. And there's a very good world education in that. And by all means, I don't care whether you go white collar or whether you go blue collar. You had better start that business, okay? So make sure you start that business. All right, everybody, we're getting a little long here, so just want to see any other questions, anything. By all means, please support your content creators. My Cash App is $CHRISP485. CHRISP485. Super chat, please. All right. Another thing too, regardless of what you decide to go into, always try to be the best at it. If you come in at middle management, you should try to work yourself in upper management. If you come in as a junior level engineer, as a junior level foreman, if you come in as a project engineer, if you come in essentially as an apprentice, your goal should be to become a foreman and ultimately become a superintendent. If your goal should always be, okay, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm at, this is where I want to be. And if you have that mindset, whether it's corporate America, if you have that mindset, whether it's blue collar, you are going to be well. And last thing I want to say is this, everybody. In this economy, a lot of people are worried about getting fired. A lot of people are worried about the price of eggs and the price of gas. A lot of this stuff, a lot of this crap, everybody, is outside of our control. What is not outside of our control is our mindset and how hard we can work. What's not outside of our control is getting other certifications and getting other degrees. What's not out of our wheelhouse and what's not out of our hands is essentially working harder and working smarter. So make sure you are doing both so that you can financially emancipate yourself from poverty, build generational wealth, and create a legacy for your kids and for your grandkids, okay? All right, everybody, it has been real. Any other questions?
right. Cool. All right, everybody. It's your boy Chris. Please like, please comment, please share, please subscribe. You can find me. My Instagram is the real Financipation. My TikTok is Financipation. My Spotify is Financipation. My Facebook page is Financipation. Check out my financial blog. Also, additionally, I want you to check out my book for my college students. Essentially, I wrote this book right here to teach you how to go to college for free. Please purchase it on Amazon. $24.99. Well, I basically walked you through all the steps about what I did to A, go to college for free, and also B, how I actually paid for college. Got a full ride to get there. So, Chief, please check out my financial blog as well, called Financipation. So that is everybody. It's your boy. Please like, please comment, please share, please subscribe. Please hit that like button. Thank you everybody for the super chats, and thank you everybody for tuning in. It's your boy Chris. I'm out. Peace.